One can have a false confidence. I think that's what it is.
So you think that the narrative, that Hindutva narrative, was appealing to Dalit community as well?
Initial stage, I think they got swayed away. Behenji and Manyavar Sahib had to fight with Congress party and to get Baba Sahib the Bharat Ratna. And Congress, if they are talking about increasing reservation at this junction, after 75 years of independence, out of which they have ruled, I think, about 60 plus years, it's a little late, don't you think? I think he has a friend from Gujarat, and his son is, I think, at BCCI. Is that correct?
So you won't fight elections?
No.
Not in the future either?
No.
Thank you for speaking with Hindustan Times.
Thank you so much.
And, it's really exciting speaking with you because you represent the next generation of BSP politics. You've been 5 years in active politics. I wanted to start by asking you, what do you make of the Narendra Modi government and its policies? Because they seem very certain that they are coming back and with greater numbers. What do you make of them?
One can have a false confidence. I think that's what it is. As far as policies are concerned, we talk about the free ration schemes, the subsidies, Make in India, Digital India. If you look at those data that is available through government sites as well, we have been a net importer from China in the last fiscal year. I think this fiscal year as well, we are looking at a $100 billion import. I don't understand where is Make in India as a project if you're still importing in such large chunks. As far as the policy for employment is concerned, Narendra Modi ji or the BJP government is quite proud in saying that we have been able to feed 80 crore people through these free ration schemes. If you're looking at 80 crore people out of 150 or so crore population, half the country is below poverty line, which can't support themselves. That speaks volumes in terms of what kind of work this government has done in the last decade. The people below poverty line used to be a figure of, I think, about 3-4 crores on the overall population size. Now it is upwards of, I think, 23-24 crores as per last data. So I don't see them as a very successful government. I don't think so. They have been very good at formulating policies that can support the general public. Whether it is healthcare or infrastructure development, I think there are multiple gaps on their end. What they're great at is marketing those initiatives. So I think they spend a great deal of time and effort in marketing those initiatives, and I think that's what has created this false narrative of that they're coming back with larger numbers, and they've done a great job.
Well, you can call it a marketing gimmick, but I guess we have to accept, because they've been eating into the votes, they've been gathering the votes of a lot of marginalized sections, right? And I think that in the last, at least UP elections, which is where BSP is from, they managed to eat into your votes as well, right? You would acknowledge that. So, and voters aren't stupid, so would you acknowledge that perhaps there has been some kind of, lapse on the BSP's part, that your core voter, which is a very loyal voter, has been, or is it that they're doing something right in their policies?
So 2014, we were looking at a 19% vote share for BSP. 2014 was the same at 19%. What we are getting as of right now is that a 19 or a 22% or so vote share. That's what we are anticipating for this election cycle.
But it fell in 2022 in the assembly.
Vidhan Sabha elections, yes, we saw a little bit of a decline. I think about 12 odd so percent is what we're standing at. And that has been there has been a steady sort of movement from BSP to other regional parties, national parties. But I think if you ask me, is that sort of a clear definition of are we losing ground? I don't think so. There have been some internal challenges as well. While there has been a broader narrative of Hindutva, but we feel that people have had enough of this Hindutva
So
as
you
a
think
narrative.
that the narrative, that Hindutva narrative, was appealing to Dalit community as well?
Initial stage, I think they got swayed away, but they've realized that due to Hindutva, I think BJP as a political party has been able to successfully sideline the initiative and the work and the needs of Bahujan Samaj. So if you look at the development or the educational rate of SC/ST communities in UP for that matter, I think it's the highest in the country. They've been highest in dropouts. They've been the most people who've been impacted in terms of the education that they receive. I think they're not able to get that kind of quality education that is required. Or we've seen that happen over the last decade. People have started realizing that they're big talk but little work. Even the communities that we are trying to represent, even they've realized that they can have a good talk about Ram Mandir and this and that, but the community had been very vocal about employment, had been very vocal about empowerment, and I think those are the two issues that were never addressed.
So Akash, why do you think? So the community got swayed by Hindutva. Now you feel because of the kind of, and obviously opinion polls have also said that there is huge dissatisfaction when it comes to jobs and inflation. But if you're saying that they're coming back, wouldn't they find it attractive to look at the India bloc who's only they're talking about increasing reservation? So that speaks to minorities, that speaks to the Dalit community. And they're also talking about representation and, kind of reworking all of it. Why do you think, would you accept that that's also something that the Dalit community is perhaps looking at?
I think Dalit community is not as forgetful as one might take them for. I think the community has not forgotten that Behenji and Manyavar Saab had to fight with Congress party and to get Baba Saab the Bharat Ratna. I think they haven't forgotten that BSP was the one who had pressured the center government to implement the Mandal Commission report. I think people have not forgotten those 2-3 key initiatives that were taken by the Bahujan Samaj Party, and the hem at that time were these governments likes of BJP and Congress. And Congress, if they are talking about increasing reservation at this junction, after 75 years of independence, out of which they have ruled, I think, about 60 plus years, it's a little late, don't you think? I mean, what's the point in talking about reservation today? You had 60 years to do so. You had full majority governments running across not just the country, but also a lot of other states. What have you done in those states? Where is the reservation there? I mean, you had plenty of opportunity to prove your point. I don't think so that these governments should come up with manifestos and promises now. I think they should come up with the track record of what they've done in the past and let the people decide what the true
But what about,
picture
so
is.
you don't find the Congress convincing because obviously you feel that, they were, their caste policies didn't work so they're not convincing. But the Samajwadi Party was your partner before, and with the alliance, it was successful to some extent. You got 10 seats. So they would be, when they're talking about PDA, Pishra Dalit Adivasi, that has to have some hold.
So, the Samajwadi Party is very indecisive, whether it is about the full form of PDA, what you mentioned. They've changed it multiple times as per their convenience. I don't think so that they are very clear with what they're trying to achieve. For that matter, I think the leadership is not able to decide on particular seats and tickets itself. I think it's very difficult for the community to trust a leader who can't be decisive. Second, they're not very famous for the right reasons. I mean, they've had their government in the past, and what they are famous for is, the Gunda Raj, the Mafia Raj, not necessarily law and order and development. So people are very aware of such things. They're not necessarily the most
But they were good
optimum
enough for
options.
you all to trust them, right?
Everybody makes mistakes.
Right. So is that the reason why you all didn't go with the India bloc?
We didn't align with their thought process. I mean, their policies. I think what we are standing for in this election cycle is law and order. We are fighting for employment. We are fighting for development. And I think we've got a very nice track record to prove the same. And we feel that, Congress or Samajwadi Party, they have nice promises, but they don't have a track record to prove it. And we feel that our voters will trust a party which has a proven record.
You've pointed out all that's wrong with the India bloc and the NDA. I wanted to ask you, what are you doing and offering? Because you also have to offer people something in order to get back the votes that you've lost, get back the voters in the community.
So when ma'am came to power back in 2007, the first thing that she made sure that was on the priority list was filling the backlog jobs that were there in the government sector. We feel that that's a top priority this time as well. In terms of employment, we made sure that there were plenty of opportunity for the youth. For example, we had from 7 to 12, we were able to employ about 15 to 20 lakh people in government sector alone. And I think that's going to be a key priority this time as well. When it comes to development, so I'm sure there'll be records available in public domain. When ma'am took over the government, I think Noida Authority was one of the key areas where nobody took a lot of pride. But being proximity to Delhi, I think it became a development development hub for her, that we will create something nice out of this city. When we took over, when ma'am took over in 2007, I think Noida Authority had a deficit, I think about 7,000 crores. When we were exiting the government, we had a surplus of 50,000+ crores in this authority alone. That authority has been able to fund UP government for the last decade. And I think there's a lot of, it leaves a lot of mark. It gives the party a lot of pride that we were able to generate business across not just Noida, but across the state. So whether you talk about the national highway system that today Nitin Gadkari ji is so proud to showcase to the world, I think the first one in the country was put across in public-private partnership format from Greater Noida to Agra. I think that set a model, and then that laid a blueprint from Agra to Lucknow, then Lucknow to further touching Bihar. These governments are good at copying our ideas. They're good at creating those same initiatives. They're good at remarketing those initiatives. For example, if you take a stroll down Greater Yamuna to Agra, in fact, from Noida to Greater Noida, you'd see a lot of greenery across along with the highway. So the problem was when we were just, drafting the space out for this highway from Noida to Greater Noida. The government had the court had posted that you'll be chopping down 1,000 trees along the way. So where is the green initiative there? Ma'am, what she did was that for every tree cut down, they will implement 10 more. So if thousands were cut down, then 10,000 were planted along the journey. Now, Narendra Modi ji, I think, recently was very proud while stating this fact that we're doing a green highway initiative where he's planting trees. It's basically a rehash of what we have done in the past. I think what we're not good at is marketing. I think they're good at that.
I think a lot of parties are saying that they're not as good as BJP's marketing. But, I'll tell you one idea that perhaps they copied, but they've been successful, I guess. Behenji was known for social engineering. The first time, I heard that term was when she brought about this whole thing of having Brahmins in the party and the Dalits, right? But now social engineering is something that Amit Shah is credited with, because he's got the non-Jatavs, he's got the, non-Jatavs together with the OBCs, and that's created the rainbow kind of coalition, which is getting them so much of a victory and has been successful.
I think it is more of whitewashing rather than actual representation of these communities. If you look at our president, she comes from a tribal background, right? I mean, if the new parliament has been inaugurated and, you've got Bollywood actresses coming down, why not your president who's a tribal community woman? If you cannot represent in true form and fashion, I think it's all whitewash. It's good to talk about, yeah, we are able to do social engineering, but the true hidden agendas are visible in these small actions of theirs. So, and people are not very, people are very sharp. They do take a note of such things.
You sound so anti-BJP, but why is it that there is an impression across there's a wide impression that BSP is in some kind of an agreement with the BJP?
I feel that it's a narrative by both it plays well for both Congress and BJP to spin that narrative out. BJP knows that its biggest competitor, or the biggest threat is BSP. So, and people who vote or believe in BSP are hardcore anti-BJP, voters. So, in order to make BSP a weaker player, make the voters believe that they are part of the coalition, right?
But
Congress
tell me something that Behenji has
same.
really opposed them on.
So the whole the country was, when the whole country was braiding about the Ram Mandir issue. I don't think so any leader in the country was had the strength to talk about Babri Masjid, but I think ma'am was quite open about it. And I'm sure that people who understand BJP, they also understand that BJP stands for one religion, one party. Whereas in BSP does not. We believe in a secular country and we believe in all rights to eat.
But to those who say that by not aligning with the opposition, you're dividing the vote, and thereby you're helping the BJP?
I'm sorry, half the country is not aligned with these guys. The Indie bloc. Who's India, so to say, India associations. Half the country is not aligned with them. Mamata Banerjee is not with them. No, I don't hear BJP or the other guys talking
Mamata
about.
Banerjee is in other places, but not in
Yeah,
Bengal.
so why that same allegation not for Mamata Banerjee, where her state constitutes about 39-40 seats? Why not for her? Arvind Kejriwal is not aligned.
No, they have an alliance in Delhi.
Sorry, I think southern states, they're not aligned with them, but and they constitute a major chunk of seats.
For example, they're fighting in Kerala, but they're fighting together in Bengal.
Sorry, left side.
Yeah.
But they're not aligned with these guys, na? So, we can talk about that, everybody's fighting for their particular thought, their ideology, right? It's a fight for, one's mission, one's ideology, and I think we're not aligned there. So, it's I think very wrong for one to say कि if you're not aligned with these guys, you're against or you're aligned with the opposition or the opposing party. That's quite I think wrong.
I think one of the things that is kind of building up this narrative is also that we're not seeing enough of Behenji. Why isn't she campaigning more?
Ma'am has already done, I think, about 25-30 rallies already. And I think she has about 45-50 more planned in the next 30 days. So if the media is not taking a note, then they should. And I think on ground, people are seeing
But
her big
before, we
time.
used to always see her, doing press conferences all the time. She hasn't had a press conference the last 4 months. I think it was just the annual press conference. She just gives out, yay. Isn't she missing from the campaign?
Not really. I think we believe in working on the ground. We believe less in building narratives, but actually working with our voters, with our supporters. We are the, I think, last the parties which actually focuses on cadre, on ground cadre, and that's what we've done for the past 2.5, 3 years. I think I'm not sure if the media, mainstream media, has taken a note, but recently we ran a campaign of Gaon Chalo Abhiyan, where we were building, booth level workers across the state. And that, again, it was a very successful program that we were able to run in UP. And that was being replicated post this Lok Sabha election across the country.
So there's been the rise of also emerging, or there's been the emergence of a new kind of Dalit leadership as well. There are fledgling young leaders like Chandrasekhar Azad and others coming up. What does Benji make of someone like him? Do you all
Man has
welcome
made
him?
this very clear that, back in Manevar's time, there were multiple leaders who were propping up, and we saw what happened then, right? Manevar Saab had given a very nice answer to this question, and I think it is applicable today also. He wrote a book called Chamcha Age, right? Chamcha Yug, and it addresses all these, small time prop-ups time and again whenever they see an opportunity to cut into the votes of BSP and, support the opposing parties. And I think that's where they stand till date. I don't think so there is a serious competitor that can rival BSP's cadre, BSP's voter, and its vote share across the country.
Also, you are quite dismissive about.
It's not quite dismissive. I mean, numbers states for themselves. We are the third largest political party in the country. And I don't see a fourth one who can compete with us on the same level with the same ideology.
And final question to you: the the kind of accusation the Prime Minister levels at all the regional parties is that they propagate dynastic politics and parivarvad. What would you say to him, since the next generation of BSP?
I think he has a friend from Gujarat, and his son is, I think, at BCCI. Is that correct? I think he had his this fellow in his government who had promoted him as the PM candidate, and I think his son is also in the party and he's doing something. I think when one accuses other political families of dynastic politics, I think one should look at his own political party and then raise questions or raise fingers. As far as BSP is concerned, ma'am was very clear. It came as a surprise to me as well that family is not going to be part of this political affair, and we were not for the longest of time. Ma'am had given opportunity to other 4 to 5 people who couldn't arise to the the opportunity or the responsibility, and it wasn't her decision at all. Actually, a couple of senior leaders who had proposed it to her that you've made a commitment, just like Manevar Sahab, that no family would be involved in this politics. I think to maintain a sanity or to maintain the movement, you may bring a custodian from the family, but ma'am put a very strict condition that if we bring in a custodian to BSP from the family, then the condition remains that nobody's going to fight a Lok Sabha or a Vidhan Sabha election and participate in that manner. So I think we have come in as custodians to this movement. Our job is to make sure that we're able to put the message out, increase the footprint, and bring the community together under BSP's umbrella. And I think we're trying to do that itself. It's not a dynastic policy. It's not an heirloom that is being handed over from one generation to another. I think it's a pretty responsible and a very sane way to, make sure that the party stays in a very safe and
So you won't
forward
fight
manner.
elections?
No,
Not in the future either.
no. Ma'am's statements have been very clear, and I think she doesn't tend to
So
change her
what role
decisions.
do you see yourself playing? I mean, you've only been here 5 years, so it's early, and you're only 27. So, I mean, but you're in politics, you're in BSP. So what role do we see you in the future?
So, managing day-to-day affairs, managing the the strategy, the on-ground execution of those strategies, I think that's what we will continue to do, and make sure that there's a brighter future for a lot of younger leaders who are going to come and grow out of this movement. We've always, I think BSP is the only party which has been able to successfully give a lot of minority leaders voice in the parliament as well as in Vidhan Sabhas. I think we were the party which was the first. We were the first party which was able to give voices to a lot of minority leaders, like a lot of minority communities across this Vidhan Sabha. And since then, I think that has set a trend. And other national parties have taken notice that yes, there is a large section that they need to focus on of this country. And I think our job is going to be the same. Make sure that the marginalized communities continues to get new leaders and they continue to get a voice in the parliament and Vidhan Sabha.
Some of the people who were leaving, I just remember that you were talking about Benji earlier. And of course, she's such an influential figure and, iconic really, as a woman politician. But, a lot of the leaders were saying who have left, or, for example, Danish Ali and others who left, is that they couldn't get enough face time with Benji.
I was just recently talking to a worker of BSP, our cadre worker, and he was of the same opinion. He said, if I may take the liberty of speaking in Hindi.
Of course.
He said, भैया जी, मैम के साथ, बहन जी के साथ ना वो इंटरेक्शन नहीं हो पा रहा है, बहुत समय से नहीं हो पा रहा है. तो बट अब आप आ गए हैं तो हमें पता है कि जो बहन जी सोच रही हैं वो आप कर रहे हैं, और जो हम कह रहे हैं वो बहन जी तक पहुंच रहा है. आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर माय रोल, आई थिंक, स्टेप्स इन, where people are able to talk and put up their thoughts, their concerns. Yes. And ma'am has not necessarily disappeared from the scene. It's just that she's very selective with time now, with where she's spending her energy. And I think she spends most of her time in strategizing and managing, taking this party through these turbulent times.
Well, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for giving the opportunity and clearing the air about some of the key issues
Yeah.
In this
Thank you.
session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.